Hi, friend. Hope you're doing well, and welcome to another episode of the Your Audio Solutions podcast. I hope you're doing well and that you had an awesome Christmas and New Year's Eve. We actually had some snow here, which was the first time. Actually, it's my first time in Leeds for Christmas, but we had some snow for the last few days, which has been really nice. We used to have shitloads of snow when I grew up in Sweden, uh, but we haven't had any in London for a while. Neither in Sweden, actually. I guess you can blame that on climate change, unfortunately. But I hope you had a great Christmas anyway. Got some cool presents, hopefully, and that you got to celebrate the whole holidays with your family. I know because we've all been locked in, and I guess some people haven't had a chance to be with their families, unfortunately. But I hope you had a good time anyway. Uh, I actually started watching The Mandalorian. I know people have been raving about The Mandalorian, but I think it's pretty shit. I know that might be an unpopular opinion, but find the story somehow weird and not weird actually, but nothing happens. It would have been so much better if there was any depth to the story, if you know what I mean. And like the one interesting character, Yoda or Baby Yoda, whatever his name is, they don't really explore. So it's like, what the hell? Just doing these random quests, and we don't get to see the Mandalorian's face, which is really annoying too. It's like, how can you connect with that guy? Um, but yeah, that's random topic. But anyhow, welcome to another episode of the Your Audio Solutions podcast, where it's my mission to find the tools and methods to the people that inspire you, so you can apply their knowledge to your own life and work. And it was a real pleasure talking to today's guest, which was Carl Bahner. He's a producer, mixer, remixer in the US. We had a great conversation about how to set goals and how to reach your goals, and he gave some great tips, like a podcast and a book, and I link to that in the description below. We also talked a lot about mental health, fulfillment, and a lot of really good, healthy topics to talk about. And I really hope you get a lot out of this conversation, like I did having it with Carl. So I hope you enjoyed this one. And also, before we get into the episode, I would love for you to check out the Audio Tribe. There's a link to that in the description below. Just click the link, enter your name and email address. You have joined the Audio Tribe email list. And what you get if you join the Audio Tribe? Well, you get exclusive access to interviews before the public, a chance to ask up and coming guest questions, and a lot more that I like to do in the future as the channel grow and all that sort of stuff. And also, if you're listening to this on Apple Podcast or watching on YouTube, please subscribe. I love your support. We're growing steadily and it's exciting to see. So, yeah, it's all thanks to you. So, I really appreciate that you're watching and that you hopefully enjoy the content and help sharing it with your friends. But if you haven't subscribed, please hit subscribe below. I really appreciate your support. But that's it. Let's get into the interview with Carl Bonner. So please enjoy. So you based in, was it Philadelphia? Was that correct?
Kind of, yeah. I'm about like an hour drive west of Philadelphia in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, right.
Yeah.
It's a bit confusing being not American because Philadelphia is quite close to New York. Is that the thing?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so New York is about probably about 2 hour. Well, depending on traffic, I'd say like about like a 2 hour trip
Right.
north of Philadelphia, and then I think it's probably 2.5, maybe 3 hours from where I'm at, just kind of like diagonally.
Right.
Yeah, like I'm southwest of New York, so I'm kind of in this weird spot where I'm pretty close to Philly. I'm pretty close to Washington D.C. Pretty close to New
Ah,
York, which is kind of why we decided on this city when we moved here from Philadelphia, because the trains, like the Amtrak train station,
hmm.
is like a 2-minute walk from where we live. So if I need to get to New York or DC or Baltimore or Philly or anywhere or Boston, I can just like I could literally walk to the train station and
Nice.
and go.
Do you have any airports close to you too? Or do you have to go to New York, which is annoying?
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
there's there's a little one. There's a little one like 10 minutes from us, and I think it's just like a small like local thing. There is technically Harrisburg International Airport is about like an hour from here, but that's I don't know how that's international unless they consider Canada international because it's so small.
Right.
Um, but yeah, but even then, Philly, you get to the Philly airport, it's like maybe like an hour and a half, depending on the traffic. So like it's still not too bad.
Nice, man. I mean, we just moved to Leeds from London.
Oh, nice.
And we were really lucky where we lived in London, Crystal Palace. It was like literally 45 minutes door to door from the airport, like
Yeah.
Gatwick Airport. Maybe you've heard about that one.
Mhm.
And we were really spoiled by that because you could just take a cab to the train station and it was like 10 minutes from there, etc., etc. Really nice.
That's awesome.
But now living here is like you have to go to Manchester, which is like an hour and a half probably. I haven't done the trip yet because we just moved here.
Oh yeah. When did you move?
When?
Yeah, how
We
recently?
literally came up Saturday.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, we're still living at my partner's parents' house. So this is what you see behind me.
Yeah.
This is not my usual setting. But it's cool, man. I mean, it's been since the lockdown. It's just been for me. And this is a funny thing actually, and we can get into that. But for me, I mean, I was doing a lot of live gigs, working with bands, but all that shut down.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's been the complete opposite. Some people, not gigs, I guess, but some
Yeah.
people have been super busy in their home
Yeah.
studios. I
Yeah. Like,
I have not been busy whatsoever.
oh, gotcha.
How about you?
I've been slammed.
Yeah.
I've been busier. Like last year, I'm trying to think. Like I've been doing music full time since 2009, and last year was my busiest year I ever had.
Hmm.
And then this year, just like I hit last year's numbers at like in like August or September of this year.
Right.
Yeah, it just it's I don't know. I don't know what I mean. I have an idea of what it was, but I think just kind of coincidentally, what I do and how I spent the past couple of years trying to move myself in a direction of remote mixing.
Hmm.
I think just doing like I saw it coming. Like I saw the shift to more remote collaboration coming. I just didn't expect it to be as like abruptly and you know abruptly and completely
Right.
as it has been. But I think just because I had most of the kinks worked out even before COVID hit, it made it a lot easier for me to convince people that may have never recorded remotely before to try working with me remotely because they kind of had to. They had to do like they didn't have the option of going into a local spot. So it's like if you're gonna have to go remotely anyway, why don't you give me a shot?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But so, how did you set that whole thing up then? If we wanna go there, like, what did it take for you to get the remote aspect of your business on a roll? So this year also became the busiest year so far.
Um, Honestly, I'd say it has to be. It's gonna sound really dumb and it's gonna sound simplified, but it is like a very deep topic. But I think like relationship building with your artists
Right.
and not just getting word of mouth, but like earning word of mouth. Because I haven't done any advertising or anything. It's all just been, word of mouth or the occasional like I guess yeah, even if it is something like in make pop music, like if somebody like tags me in a post to check it out, like it's still word of mouth in that sense because somebody's saying, hey, you
Mhm.
should talk to Carl.
Yeah.
So I think for me the biggest thing that helped, which is a very long game and not a sexy topic,
Mhm.
is just like really developing a way to keep in contact with people even if they say no
Right.
and finding a way to like try to stay top of mind even if they're not ready to work with you for a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year sometimes.
Hmm. Well, so you just keep following up until they eventually say yes.
I kind of it's not even like following up like I don't know how much if you want to like talk
Let's.
about this in the actual episode, but
Oh, yeah, yeah, I mean,
um,
we're rolling. You know, everything
oh, it
is.
is okay. Cool,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Don't worry, man.
Yeah. So what I'd say, like, it's not just following up in a traditional business course kind of way. It's
Right.
just genuinely like if they post, if you know, when you see it, when you're scrolling through Instagram and you see a post that they have a new video out or something, like it, watch it, actually,
Mm,
like congratulate them. You know,
mm.
I'm not saying follow up in the sense of every 6 weeks on Monday at 11 a.m. I'm
Right,
sending them
right,
an
right.
email saying, hey, just a reminder that I do mixing. Like that's not at all how I try to handle it. It's just trying to just engage with them and just be a fan. Like especially for me, I'm very when I do any outreach to an artist that I want to try to work with, I'm very particular about who it is that I reach out to because I want it to be somebody that I'd actually listen to and I'd actually not just enjoy working with, but like just genuinely enjoy listening to them.
Mm-hmm.
So because I have that approach and that mentality towards it, it makes it a lot easier for me to genuinely care when they release stuff because 9 times out of 10, I'm going to actually like it.
Hmm.
You know, because I'm not just blindly sending out you know uh, cold emails to every random band that has a SoundCloud page.
Right. So you don't do that at all, or that's just a small part of it, maybe.
Don't do the
Like the cold outreach, like
well,
you
the
just said.
yeah, yes, but like the cold outreach is still like I said, very targeted. Like
Right.
I do a lot of like my Discover Weekly playlist on Spotify is like a godsend. And like
Nice.
every Monday morning, like I'll drop off my daughter at preschool. I'll take the dog on a walk and I'll get back with a cup of coffee and I'll just sit there and I'll just go through every song on my list and kind of see, not just who I would like to work with, but also kind of digging into who they are working with, who they have been working with. And a lot of times, kind of coincidentally, they're working with people that I know and I'm friends with, and then I'll know
Right. Right.
not to do that. I don't want to step on any toes. Or sometimes it might be a situation where they're working with somebody that I know, and I would be like, that would be really fun to remix. I wonder if, so and so engineer or producer that's working with them that I know, if they'd be willing to connect us about maybe me just doing like a remix of one of their songs.
Hmm.
So I try to be open to a lot of different possibilities of how that relationship could build. But at minimum, even just being a fan and just having good music to listen to is, that's a win in its own right. And I
Definitely.
think it keeps me going too. It keeps me from getting exhausted and burnt out from reaching out to people because I'm not just, you know,
Hmm.
sending out 100 DMs a day to just random people, and the only ones that are getting back to me are the ones that I don't like. And then I'm in this weird position of like, do I want to take the money and do this project I'm not happy with, or do I want to like ghost them even though I was the one that reached out to them in the first place? You're not. It's not a good position to be in.
No, definitely not. But it's cool because we sound. Maybe I'm wrong here, but it sounds like, and I think this is good for people to hear too. That being a professional, whatever, engineer, producer, musician, whatever, is that you actually have to work to get work. Like you don't just get up remixing a random song, for example. Like
Yeah,
you spend a lot of time working to get the work come in. I mean,
yeah.
was that something that came? Did you know you had to do that, or how did you discover that that was necessary?
Um. So when I first started out doing music professionally full time, I was mostly doing like drum session work
Hmm.
and like gigging and doing sessions and touring and teaching some lessons as well. And for all of that, just kind of by necessity, not being in a huge music city. I mean, Philly is still a big music city, but it's not New York or LA or Nashville. So like there aren't so many artists going around that it's super easy to just find work instantly. You can't just like, it's not like Nashville where you can like close your eyes, spin in a circle, throw a frisbee and hit 5 singer songwriters in the head
Right.
unintentionally. So So I think because of that, being in a good music town, but not in a huge music town, kind of
Mm.
forced me to realize, okay, that there are a lot of artists, there are a lot of opportunities, but they're not going to just come just because I'm there, just because I'm just going to put a Craigslist ad out doesn't mean that everyone's going to suddenly be enamored by my portfolio and just want to hire me for everything. It takes a lot more. The personal connections are what really, you hear this all the time. The personal connections are what really help to drive that. And until you have to build those personal connections like the hard way, you
Mm.
don't realize how difficult it is, but how rewarding it is when it's done, or
Right.
when it's like successful.
Exactly. But how long? Actually, maybe not. That might be the wrong question, but maybe you can say it. Maybe we can ask it anyway. So, on average, how long does it usually take for you to reach out, build a relationship, and not be this shark until something comes around as paid work? Is there such a thing as an average there?
Um,
Maybe that's even the wrong thinking of me, to be honest. Because
no, no, but it's a good question. It is a good question. Because I think it'll give context as far as like why you shouldn't give up after
right,
3 days.
right, 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 right.
Um, I'll get back to the average thing in a second, but I will say this: when COVID first hit and everything
Mm,
started shutting down,
mm,
of course, I was scared because I had no idea what was going to happen.
mm.
Not only not just career wise, but like obviously with my life, with my wife who's a nurse, with
Right.
a,
Shit.
a
Yeah.
3-year-old, at the time, and I saw a lot of my friends, a lot of my peers, especially that I had met and gotten to know during my session musician phase of my career. They were all scrambling, trying to figure out what the hell to do. They
Mm,
had all their gigs were drying up because there were nowhere to do it. A lot of them were really struggling even to just figure out how to do live streams and stuff, and just figuring out the technology behind it, let alone how to actually make any money off of it.
mm.
And I was really nervous. There was like a week or two where I really was just like, okay, I don't know how I'm gonna pay the mortgage next month. Like I don't know what's gonna happen. And then there was this one week in April, I believe. It was like maybe it was late March or early April, and out of nowhere, there were I think 6 or 7 different artists that I had been talking to for at least 6 months. Some of them for like a year and a half. That I was like trying to get them to work with me, and
Mm.
I've been keeping in touch with them, and they just never pulled the trigger. They just were working with their local people. All within one week, these like 6 or 7 different artists all reached out to me, said, "Hey, we have some songs we want to record. We can't go to our local studio. We'd love to try this with you."
Nice.
And that kind of it was a good like proof of concept that
Mm-hmm.
the long game does work.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that said, as far as like an average, you know, uh, I'd say realistically maybe a couple months if they're going to do it. If they're going to actually pull the trigger, I'd say usually 2 or 3 months on average.
Mm.
And if you think about it too, everybody's doing, well, not everybody, but a lot of artists, especially the styles that I work in, are doing singles, and they're trying to do a new
Right.
single every 4 weeks, 6 weeks, right? So yes, they're very often in the mix stage,
Mm.
or the additional production stage.
Mm.
But they're also probably, if they're doing it right, they're probably 2 or 3 songs ahead. Like they already have a couple in the process. So like the one that they're mixing now isn't even going to be coming out until
Right.
in February or March because they already have the other singles ready to go, like
Mm.
in line.
Mm.
So even though they're mixing, they're not ready for a new mixer.
Right.
So just because they are actively working on new music and they're yeah, that they're even potentially interested in working with you, it doesn't mean that the timing's going to work out.
Sure.
So that's why I say probably like 2 or 3 months or so. Sometimes less, sometimes more.
Mm. Mm.
Sometimes it's like, oh, that's amazing. I didn't realize that you did mixing, and I love your stuff, and my mixing engineer that I normally do, he just had a baby and can't do anything. Would you be able to do the single for me? Like that's happened too. So that's definitely
Yeah.
like, that's an outlier for sure. Just like the, 18 months artist was an outlier. But
Yeah, it's super interesting
yeah,
because talking about the long game and the reason well, actually, I'm trying to steer away from saying or even asking like how long stuff should take because I've ended up shooting myself in the foot by setting these random number goals. Like if
yeah,
I do this thing, it should only take 1 month. Like let's say, and I'm
yeah,
trying to steer away from those or that thinking. Like if like time, something should take the time it takes for it to happen. So I'm trying
yeah,
to steer away from that thinking. So that's why I almost
yeah.
regretted my question asking the
Well,
average.
I'll be devil's advocate there and say
Mm,
that it's not one or the other.
right.
It you need to, I think, set some sort of tangible expectation just so that way you don't get disappointed if it takes a while. Especially if you tell yourself, oh, they might not even want to do anything for at least 3 months. At least that makes you not get frustrated and keep
Yeah,
yourself
yeah.
up at night on day 4 when they still haven't when they still haven't begged you to take their money yet.
Hmm.
And that said, you have a really valid point about letting it happen naturally and letting it develop. And sometimes they'll not want to work with you, or they might have somebody in the art, like if it's a band, maybe somebody in the band does all their stuff and they just don't have the funds to outsource, or maybe they have somebody in the band that does it who's also just really fucking good. So
Hmm.
like, of course, yeah, of course you should keep doing this.
Hmm.
Um,
But how did you set like realistic expectations for yourself in terms, not in terms of getting a client perhaps, but in terms of longer goals such as your career as a whole? Because maybe when you started out, did you have like a number in mind or like, oh, I have to make a living by this when I'm this old or something like that?
yeah, I don't know. I think that's something that I've always struggled with.
Hmm.
And I feel like every musician I've ever talked to has had a similar thing where they want to set goals, and then when they do, they're either way too lofty or they sell themselves way too short.
Hmm.
Very, I think it's just a very difficult thing in general. And I feel like the people that are in the business world that do it, from my understanding of it, I feel like a lot of people, even then, they'll like adjust their plans
Hmm.
as things go along, adjust their goals as things go along. But I feel like just as creatives, we have a hard time kind of quantifying a goal that ultimately is based upon some intangible art.
Hmm.
It's like how do we use, it's like we're using, uh, we're trying to use letters to come up with like a number answer, or vice versa. Like it
Hmm.
just doesn't really work that way.
Exactly.
So yeah, so for me, it's always been a difficult thing, and I've been trying this new system actually. Are you familiar with the one thing?
No.
I don't know where it's Jeff Woods. Sorry. Oh, Gary Keller. Yes, right. I think Jeff Woods is one of the guys that sends the emails out. But
Right.
the one thing,
Okay, cool.
uh, it's the surprisingly simple truth behind extraordinary results.
Hmm.
And really what it's about is it's kind of like the 80-20 principle.
Right.
I kind of like focus on that, and really narrowing it down to individual, singular focus things that are going to really move you forward.
Hmm.
And this is just for like more general business. It's not really a music specific book,
Hmm.
but one of the things that they have is they have a system called the My 411, and it basically you set your end of year goals for both the career and also like your personal life. but then it breaks it down, and then it basically has like this sheet, and it says like, okay, in by end of 2021, I want to achieve X, right? And then in the section below it, it says, okay, to achieve that by the end of this month, I need to reach this landmark, and then boom. And then below that, it breaks it down by the week, so that way you can kind of not just have a lofty goal for the end of the year, but also kind of like breaks it down like, okay, if I want to get to that by the end of the year, then by the end of this month, I have to reach that. And if I want to reach that end of month goal, then by the end of this week, I need to focus on this.
Hmm.
And it really helps you to narrow down what are the things that are actionable that you can do now.
Mm-hmm.
Or let me rephrase that. What are the things that are actionable that you should do now versus things that are just like busy work that take up time but aren't really moving you forward in that direction.
Hmm.
So that's been helpful so far. I've been doing it for like a month and a half.
Nice. But how does it work in terms of setting a realistic goal? Like, let's say end of 2021. Because I mean, this, I think I'm just speaking for myself now, but my brain works like, okay, my end of, let's say 2021, my end of year goal would be, I don't know, let's say to have this many subscribers for the podcast, let's say. And then I set it so high that it's unachievable. Let's say like 1 million, that would be like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to reach that goal. That's super exciting. But then that's why I shoot myself in the foot, because then I'm not realistic, I think. So do you know what I mean? How do you think
Yeah.
about that?
So here's a question for you. So how, and you can mute this part of the podcast, but so
That's
how many
fine.
subscribers do you have now? Like the last time you checked, like how many do you have?
Oh, it's a good question, actually. I mean, it's a couple of hundred
Okay.
across the platforms.
Okay. So what you could do, I mean, so 1 million might be, that's a big goal, but the way that they kind of set it up and the way that I don't know if this is the way that they want you to do it or if it's just my adaptation of it, but I kind of started a little bit smaller with my goals, knowing that I can always change them and I can always like beef them up as I start to see like what the trends of the results of my actions are. So you could do something like, okay, well, if you want to get like 10,000 followers or subscribers by the end of 2021, okay, well, that means that really by the end of January, you would try to reach like five, even just like 500 or 1,000, I guess, depending on like where specifically you are.
Yeah.
And then you can start thinking, okay, well, if I want to do that, then this week I should come up with a plan of how to engage, listeners of other audio podcasts that I really think would find some value in what I'm presenting here. Because you have some like really big names come on here. Like it's not like you're just starting this out and
No.
you have like your buddy down the street who like plays in a bar band coming and talking about how to play a G chord in 3 different voicings. That's not what you're talking about. You have some like heavy hitters on here, so I feel like it's going to be an obvious choice for a lot of people that are going to want to listen to it. So it's a matter of, I think, figuring out a plan of how to get it out to some new people. And then you could say, okay, well then also maybe next week's main goal should be to take a look back at what kind of episodes have gotten the most listens and the most engagement from, and maybe adjust, not saying adjust the format, but like maybe try to get more of those. Like if you have more people on the business side that they're really into, or more on the production side, or more on the like instrument design side. So the way that they actually set this up on the My 411 is it's kind of like a little like 3 or 4. I think they certainly tell you to only do like 3. I'm pretty sure, like 3 lines. So it's not like a to-do list necessarily. It's like the 3 important things that you could do this week, but you're supposed to do it in order. So that way, essentially, if I can only get one thing done this week and I'll still feel productive, that's what goes up here. And then once you achieve that, then you move on to the next one. And that's just kind of like bonus stuff that you can do. So I think like as far as how to actually plan for something like getting your subscribers to like a higher number, what you could do is, make the goal 5,000 or 10,000.
Mm.
Try this for the first month, and then maybe come March you realize, oh, actually the growth is actually getting faster, and I'm looking like I'm going to hit that goal by the summer.
Mm.
Okay, so maybe I should bump it up from 10,000 to 15,000.
Mm. Mm.
And you can like adjust it that way based on what you're doing. And or if you realize for some reason that that's just like a crazy high number, kind of try to curb your own expectations a little bit, knowing that you're still trying to beat that,
Mm. Mm.
but not setting yourself up to just look at it every morning and just like want to curl up in a ball.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's super, super interesting and really fascinating. I love that. I love when we get someone like you in this case breaking it down, making it accessible. I think so. That book seems awesome, man. What was it called again? The
Yeah.
one,
The One Thing
the one
by
thing.
Gary Keller.
I'm gonna check it
Yeah,
out.
and I'm by no means an expert on this stuff. I'm just going off of my
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
my experience. I'm definitely like an armchair quarterback when it comes to this kind of stuff. But it's been helping me a lot.
Nice.
And I mean, would you like me to talk about like what I think the goal
Yeah,
that I set, one of them as an example?
yeah, for sure.
So I would like for the end of next year, or by the end of next year, my goal was to get 3 new project requests a day. So
Mm.
like every like on average, I want to get three projects or 3 songs at least, whatever that means.
Mm.
So if one artist comes and asks me to do a mix of 12-song album, then cool, I'm good for 4 days worth of my goals. So the reason I brought this example up is because I set that goal back in the beginning of November, I think, or like middle of November. And because that was one of my goals, the first thing I needed to do was realize, well, how many am I getting now? Like I have no way of tracking this. So like how am I gonna tell if I reach this goal if I don't even know what I'm getting currently? And then I sat down and I went through and I was like, okay, for the next month, I'm gonna track how many I'm not going to not just track how many incoming requests come in, but I'm also going to track who they're from, what they're for, and then also how that relationship was started. So is it a recurring client that's I've already done 10 songs with that they're coming back for another one? Is it somebody that I had reached out to through Instagram 4 months ago? Just so I can start also seeing where this is coming from. And what I realized was that over after the first 3 weeks, I went back and looked at it. And my goal for the end of next year to be 3 per day, I was averaging like 2.7 already. So then I realized, okay, well, that's either way too low of a number for me to have as a goal, or maybe it's the wrong metric entirely. Maybe it should be, I want like 3 new, confirmed or maybe I want to do a one new confirmed project per day or something. Maybe just shifting what the actual goal is. So I think what's really helpful with this system, or my interpretation of the system, is trying to actually get some kind of data that you can use to realize, okay, A, is that goal real? First, is that the right goal to have, right?
Mm.
B, is it the right number, or the right quantifier for that particular goal? And then also, how do I what's working so far, or what's not working so far? What needs to be, where should I put more energy into? Whether it's something that's already working or something that isn't working and needs to work in order to get to that goal. And I think that's been the biggest help for me, just trying to really understand now so
Mm.
that I can plan and can try to plan for a year. Because I'm sorry, I'm just like talking so much right now.
No, no, that's okay, man. That's what
I'm
you're here
very,
for.
very
You know.
passionate about this, if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can't tell.
definitely. Let it
Um,
out.
yeah, I think of myself in the past, and I feel like a lot of other musicians. And please tell me how you feel about this.
Mhm.
I feel like we set goals based on what we want,
Exactly.
but not based on where we're going.
Exactly. That's sort of what I meant before too. But you put it much better than me. But that's exactly what I have done wrong, actually, rather than, because if I understood you correctly, what you said is, when you set that goal of 3 per day as an example, it wasn't just, random number that you wanted. It was actually, you looked at what you had, right, and put a higher goal than that, if I understood it correctly, and then you keep tracking it to see if it's realistic. Was that correct?
Well, I just arbitrarily picked it.
Oh, you did, right?
I was just like 3 per day. That would be awesome,
Right.
And like knowing that, anybody that's worked in the audio industry knows that 3, requests or like inquiries never equals 3 actual confirmed projects. Like that just doesn't ever happen. So I just was like, 3 sounds like a big number. Like that would be awesome if I got 3 people emailing me or texting me every day.
Mm-hmm.
And then I ran the number. I actually like kept track of the numbers and looked at it, and then I realized, okay, well that's not much different from where I am now.
Right.
But the whole reason that I wanted to make that a goal is because I wanted to try to get more business, right? So clearly, made me realize that 3 per day is not enough, right? So if that is the right metric, if I am going to continue with trying to aim for a certain number of requests per day to hope that I can, pivot or convert, a particular number of those into actual projects, then that number probably has to be higher than 3, because at least for me, the close rate for those type of things, it's not, I mean, with any business, I feel like it's not, it's never 100%,
No.
So that's been, I just lost my train of thought. Sorry.
That's okay. But yeah, it's super interesting, and it's really fascinating. And do you have any other, I like knowledge, tips, whatever, thoughts on this whole process? Like we were talking about how musicians, audio people, whatever you are, producer, we base our goals on what we want. And that rings very true. And I find that it was funny hearing it, because, like I said, I'm like that.
Yeah.
But I think this type of thing you're talking about, like the book and stuff, it can really help people not only reaching the goal, but also their mental health, because my mental health has definitely suffered from having goals that are, I don't want to say unachievable, that's not it, but they're not realistic as to where I am, where, whether it's my audio career, or, the podcast, for example, here,
Yeah. And I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay, man. Feel free to pitch in.
Yeah, because I feel too like a lot of people, and when I say a lot of people, I'm obviously including myself in this very often. They set their goals that, it doesn't matter even what the goal is necessarily, but I feel like we'll have a tendency of picking goals that, or assigning some personal value to a particular thing of success, when usually that particular thing itself isn't what gets you any fulfillment. Like there's so many stories.
Man. I love you bring that up. Yeah, but please continue.
There's like so many stories of people that like they won a Grammy, and then they just thought, okay, all right, I'm done. I can just, the work's going to come in here, and then 3 months, well, not 3 months, let's say like 3 years later, they're back to where they were like years before the Grammy, because they stopped pushing forward. They just kind of like let the work come to them, and then when that was no longer as relevant, they realized that they hadn't been keeping up those relationships, and so they put this, they assigned this value and this like self-worth and this to that achievement of getting a Grammy, which is fantastic. I'm not trying to say that Grammys aren't great. I'm just saying, like, they think that that's going to be like the one magic cure-all that sets them, they're set for the rest of their career, and that's not the case. And I think finding ways to realistically set goals that actually have, value for you as a person, that are coincidentally related to your career, I think that's probably a bigger thing. Like maybe like going, like if your goal is to be doing if you're not working full time in the industry yet, and your goal is to be working full time in the music industry, like that's something that is a definite like quantifiable goal, but
Mm.
also is something that you're going to feel fantastic about. That you're going to feel so fulfilled with that,
Mhm.
even though it does open a whole other can of worms of the difficulties of being a full time musician. But that's a whole other that's a whole other story.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's
I mean, quick side note about the Grammys. Do you think it has any relevance today? Not relevance, but do you think it's as valuable these days? Because I feel that Grammy is just everybody, not everybody, but so many random people just win it, and it's usually a team, like a army of songwriters who get one. Whilst in the past it was not harder to win one, but there was usually one person who won it, or a band, or whatever.
yeah.
What
I
what are
mean,
your thoughts on that?
I'm honestly, personally, I'm in very much in support of it.
Right.
I love big teams. Like my main thing is I always have, for every song that I do, like I have a team on it. Even if I'm just doing a mix for somebody, like it's
Mm.
usually there's at least three of us involved.
Hmm.
Um, so for that, like that doesn't seem weird to me. If anything, it's actually encouraging that there's more collaboration and there's more input and teamwork into crafting something
Right.
really, really to a very high standard. So to me, like having a Beyonce song with 11 songwriters or something like that doesn't bother me
Right. That's
at all.
interesting.
I think when it comes to people trying to, I'm trying to phrase this, in a politically correct way.
Sure.
People that will get a Grammy and then, like I was using that in that kind of hypothetical example of someone that got the Grammy and just thought all the work would come to them. When there's someone that gets a Grammy and then all of a sudden they're just better than you, and their attitude changes,
Right. Right.
that's when I think it's a problem. But I don't feel like it's the Grammy. I don't think it's the Grammy's fault. I think it's the
Right.
people that
Right.
win them and their own mental attitude.
Mm.
That's the problem, and it's easy to blame the award for that happening. But if it was a person, it's not like the Grammy all of a sudden like rewires your brain
Right.
into
Right.
being a
Right. Right.
you know?
Exactly.
To my knowledge, I don't know. I'm sure there's a conspiracy theory about that too, though.
Probably. No, but it's interesting hearing your thoughts on that, because yeah, we're very different opinions there. Because the Grammy, because when there is a team like the example of Beyonce, 11 writers, then I feel that the value of winning a Grammy is less, if that makes sense. Because if I yeah, I think that's how I feel about it. Does that make sense? You don't
Yes,
have
but
to agree though.
I would say this. I would say it again. I would say it's not the Grammy itself. It's how those people, how those, again, out of the 11 people, the
Mm.
if you prioritize them in like how much they actually did on it, when it's the 11th person that did the least,
Right.
that tries to use the Grammy
Right.
as a way to get clients, or often like to, I don't say scam people, but like you pretending that that they had more involvement than they did.
Mm.
So I can see an argument like that. Well, but I think again that's more people misusing their resume, or
Mm.
maybe misrepresenting themselves,
Right.
because the general public will see Grammy on the
Mm.
portfolio and assume that they did all the work, even if they were just a small piece of it.
Yeah, I think that's very true, because I think that's also where a lot of my feelings comes from. Is like you go to a random let's say engineers or songwriters website, and it says Grammy winner, and then you realize down the road that they added a tambourine. Not that
Hmm.
that tambourine was anything bad or it was needed. But that's sort of where I was like, oh, you expect something else maybe. Then it's only, I'm not saying only, because it's
Yeah.
not easy to get in that position to
Yeah.
work on a song like that. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know I do. And again, my thought is just that it depends on
The person.
it's the person and how they do it. I have so when I have my Sound Better page, for example, and you have to list like the credits
Mm-hmm.
that you have, like there's a couple credits that I have that I are probably two of the bigger artists I've ever worked with, but I don't even put it on there because I had such a small role in it.
Right.
Like I did a vocal recording session with. Are you familiar with Little Mix?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think one of my
Okay.
friends
Yeah.
worked with them live. I think if that's the
Oh,
same
okay.
band.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Like huge pop group,
Mm-hmm.
and they were in town because so it's super weird. I'm in the middle of like Amish country in Pennsylvania, and then about 15 minutes north of here, there's this place called Rock Lidditz, and it's like one of the biggest, if not the biggest, like touring and staging like facility
Right.
in the at least in the U.S. If not North America. So like Katy Perry will come here to do world tour rehearsals, and like Ariana
Oh,
Grande and like all these
right.
people. I think BTS was here a couple months, maybe like in the last year. So like they do all the design and they build all like the huge stages that they tour with. Like they build the stages, do all of that, or the cables, they prep, plan everything, and then they'll come there and do the like dress rehearsals. So I forget exactly the reason. I think they were there because they were currently doing the Ariana Grande Dangerous Woman tour. They were
Right.
opening for that, and we got a call. One of the studios downtown got a call from somebody on their team saying that they needed to come in and record some vocals for a song. And coincidentally, the people that run the studio, they mostly do like live sound.
Hmm.
So they were out doing like a high school musical or something. So they called me to come in and do the session. And it was for the song, I think it's called Touch. But what they had to do was they had to make a new version specifically for Radio Disney because the single was like, do you have like a movie film ratings in the UK, like similar to the US, like PG, R?
Yeah, I think that's worldwide. Worldwide,
Okay,
right? Yeah.
I thought so, but I didn't want to assume.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so basically, like the radio single was PG and it needed to be G
Right.
for
Right.
Radio Disney. So three out of the four of them came in, and it was literally like redoing like a single line
Right.
in a verse, like little things. And we had a Skype call with their A&R person over in like Sweden,
Hmm.
and they were in and out in like an hour and 10 minutes. And all I did was literally like help set up a microphone, and my friends Tom and I like just kind of hit record, and when we were done, sent the files over. Like we did nothing
Right.
really, other than just like we were there in the room and we were the monkeys setting stuff up and hitting the little red circle.
Right. 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 But that's funny
And then
because in that case, I think I would put credit a Little Mix, for example, if I was you. Because I mean, you did all the work you would have done if it was. It doesn't matter how long the recording was, I guess.
but see, that's where this is where I'd fight you on it, and I would say like that. I feel like that would misrepresent my involvement. Like,
Right.
yes, I recorded them, but I had no creative input at all. Like,
Right.
I
Right.
set up the microphone, hit the button, sent the files. Like I was so, or at least I would say if I was trying to build up my resume and kind of present myself as a vocal tracking engineer, then maybe. But like if I'm telling people that I'm a mix engineer and a producer, and then I have that
Hmm.
on my list, that feels not right. It's a fun
Right. Right.
story.
Right.
It's a
Right.
real story. Like I played, I helped engineer some guitars for the first Baby Metal record,
Right.
which is also like super weird and fun, but I did so little on it, and it was for like a second, like a B-side version that was only released in a certain place. And yes, I had that experience. It's a fun like conversation starter, but I don't feel like I've had enough. I didn't have enough like, creative input in either the Baby Metal project or the Little Mix project to want to use it as a selling point because
Right.
I don't want to present myself as something and then have somebody be like, "Oh my god, I love Little Mix. I'd love to work with this person." And they talk to me about it, and then I kind of tell them like the truth about what happened, and then they're like, "Oh, that's a letdown."
Right,
You
right.
know, I don't want to oversell myself. So I'm not saying it's necessarily wrong to do so, but I think for for me, I feel a little bit weird having it more than just like a fun,
Hmm.
icebreaker.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's my feelings against the Grammy award winning person saying the same. It's just the opposite. But yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, yeah, or like if it's a Grammy Award winner, and then it's like, oh, for best children's book on tape or something.
That'd be cool.
Um, yeah, yeah, I know, yes, which but like if you're but it's like it comes down to what you're using that
Yeah, yeah.
if you're using that part of your resume to try to achieve.
Right.
If you're using that to get deeper into like children's books and more
Sure.
into like audiobooks, then absolutely that's perfect. That's totally that's like the exact right thing.
Hmm.
But I'm if I'm saying like I'm a mix engineer and a producer, but I'm a Grammy winner because the Grammy that I won is actually I was an assistant to a graphic designer that did the album artwork for something totally different.
Right,
Like,
right, right.
okay, if I did have that Grammy, it has nothing to do with what I'm trying to tell people that I do,
Hmm.
and that's where I feel like the
Right,
misrepresentation
right.
becomes an issue.
Makes sense. And I have to say I agree with that point. But I
I
love to
never really
go
thought about this out loud. Like I
right.
don't know why I like never really had a conversation about this. I'm just realizing like I've had all these revelations like as I'm
Yeah, yeah,
word
yeah.
vomiting at you. I apologize.
No, that's okay, man. That's what we're here for, man. But I love to go back to the fulfillment part of life, I guess, because that's something I learned this year myself. Also because of work going down the toilet, essentially, because I used to get my fulfillment from being or from how many clients I had, and then I had to learn that even if I did have all those clients still, and it wasn't this pandemic, what actually gets me fulfilled is none of that. And that's actually what's made me feel really good, for the
Yeah,
last 6, 7 months, because I'm not, my fulfillment doesn't come from being significant in other people's eyes.
yeah.
And this is all thanks to Tony Robbins. If you know Tony Robbins,
Honestly, I know of him. I never really
right.
watched or listened. Yeah. So
Yeah.
tell me more.
No, because I did this. He has these seminars, and it was over. Usually, it's in person, large events, but obviously since the pandemic, it was online, so that's how I could attend. It was this 3 day, 4 day, maybe, you know, super intense. I don't know what you really call it, event, I guess, and you just basically go through yourself, I guess, and learn more about why you feel the way you feel, I think, and setting your not goals, but what is it, trying to find the words, but essentially the event is called, what is the event called, I forgot that name too. But yeah, it's one of his massive events.
You
And
can do a hard edit into the podcast and just
no, I
have
just
some
leave it all in, man. That's
background.
this is as raw as it gets. uh, but yeah, it doesn't matter what it's called, but yeah, really good event. You learn a lot about yourself and maybe why you feel the way you feel and how to set up yourself for success in the future. And that's when I learn one of these things, what actually it gets me fulfilled, and this podcast has been a huge fulfillment
That's awesome.
thing for me because I get to talk to people like yourself and we have really great conversations and I get to talk to my heroes for somehow. I don't know why they agree to it, but and that's been a blessing in disguise actually. It's been really
Yeah,
nice.
that's really great.
It is great. But what are your thoughts on because I know you mentioned the fulfillment part as well. So where do
Yeah.
you fall into that whole? thing?
Well, I know what I realized more recently than I want to admit.
Hmm.
Kind of realized that I had this false. I'm trying to think of how to even phrase this. I thought that, when I was gigging a lot, or even when I'm like doing music stuff, I thought that when I'm busy, that's when I'm happy, and
Hmm.
when I'm not busy, that's when I get all existential dread,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like that. But what I realized was that it's going to sound dark for a second, but I promise it's not. The existential dread is always there. Being busy just distracted me from it. It
Hmm.
wasn't that being busy was fulfilling and being still was not fulfilling. It's that nothing of it that wasn't providing any of the fulfillment, but it was distracting me from realizing it.
Right.
So once I realized that, then I was able to look back and kind of see, well, what really does, you know? And, besides, obvious things of like being with my wife and my daughter, but like even just taking my daughter or taking my puppy on a walk, I love it. Even when it's, below freezing like it is right now and I'm trudging through snow. I don't know. They're like, I just really enjoy that. And I really enjoy just walking down the street and seeing somebody else walking and just waving and saying hi. Like, for whatever reason, that makes me so much happier than what I thought music was doing.
Hmm.
So I guess that's which is weird to say because that makes it kind of sound like music doesn't make me happy. When in reality, I think once I had that realization and I stopped expecting music to be
Hmm.
the source of the happiness and the fulfillment, it made me enjoy it more.
Hmm. Exactly.
Because I wouldn't get as upset and stressed out if something didn't work out.
Hmm.
Like just yesterday, I fired a client
Hmm.
that it just wasn't working out, and I was just like what he wanted was just not in line with what I thought was a good product. And a year ago, 6 months ago, that would have I would have been like curled up, like stomach in knots, stressed out about what to do because I really wanted to nail it. I didn't want to let down because like what if this goes really well and he hires me for more stuff, and all that catastrophizing that you do in a situation like that. But I was just like, hey man, like I just think our tastes are different, and that's totally fine. I just think we have like a different vision for what it is. So I'm just going to refund you your deposit. No harm, no foul.
Hmm.
And I can't express to you how relieved I felt after I hit the send button.
Right.
And he was totally cool with it. I was totally cool with it. A couple $100 left my bank account.
Hmm.
And I probably wasted, 4 hours on that song, getting it prepped and doing
Hmm.
some work on it. But when I sat down and thought about it, I'm like, okay, well, 4 hours of like, I'd rather lose, those 4 hours of work
Hmm.
and let this gnaw at my soul and keep me up, for hours, days, weeks until this project's done. And that would
Hmm.
that would inevitably creep into my other projects. That would inevitably creep into my interactions with my family, my inability to like, relax when the day's done. And that sense of fulfillment, that sense of that realization that music wasn't the main thing that brought me a sense of purpose as a person. Once I realized that, like I said, it just made me enjoy music more, and it made me way more okay with a situation like this where it just didn't work out, and that's
Hmm.
okay.
Hmm.
I'm getting new clients in all the time. Like this is one situation that didn't work out, but I realized it early enough that didn't burn any bridges. There's no negative feelings. It was probably as easy of a quote unquote breakup as you could have with a client.
Hmm. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But what was there any like point that forced you, or like event that forced you to rethink what was fulfilling?
Um, there's been a lot,
Hmm.
you know. Um, I mean, I don't think I ever talked about this in public before.
Yeah,
Um,
if you don't want to, we
but,
can totally skip it.
oh no, it's relevant. But a couple years ago, this is like 2015, I think, 2014, 2015, somewhere in there. I ended up checking myself into a psych ward for a week,
Right.
um, for like depression, anxiety, and stuff. And I was very thankful that I never tried to commit suicide or anything. But I was thinking about it and was close. And luckily, I went in and got help and did group therapy for a while and counseling and whatnot. And so that was one of the first. Was one of the first big moments.
Hmm.
Probably the biggest, obviously. But then it just seemed like with anybody that has depression and anxiety, like it kind of comes in waves.
Hmm.
So every time that I feel like it would get worse, there's never been that bad again, thankfully. But like as things would get stressful, I would have those kind of moments of clarity. Um, and I think like the most recent one, honestly, was just weirdly enough getting the puppy,
Hmm.
which we've had her for like 3.5 months now, and just having to rethink how you're responsible for another life. And again, it sounds so dumb because I have a 4-year-old daughter, and like obviously, like I'm not new to being responsible for somebody else, but I think it was just like another little refresher that there are things, like at least Olivia, like she's 4, so she can do a lot of things on her own, so I don't
Hmm.
have to. It's not like when she was a newborn.
Hmm.
um and it made me both realize that I do have a lot of responsibility for this dog, but then also it made me really, I don't know, like really get I don't know, I don't want to say I spent some more time with my daughter because like spend every day together. I'm not sure entirely how to like phrase this. I'm sorry, I'm like talking in circles trying to work it out.
No problem.
um yeah, it just made me, I don't know, it just made me really like, even like the little things that Sadie, our daughter, or oh my God, I can't even talk today. The little things that the puppy would do that would frustrate me or annoy me, I would realize, why am I getting frustrated at this? Why am I getting annoyed at this? Because it's a dog. It's there's no reason why I should be so stressed out that we went out on her walk and she didn't poop this time. Like, there's no reason why that would stress me out. And it's usually some little like self realization like that
Hmm.
that makes me stop, and it kind of stops myself in my tracks. And I start to think about, well, what else am I overreacting about? And then, when I'm, hanging out with my daughter and we're playing with her dolls, and she really wants me to be Kristoff and she's Anna, and I'm playing there. And if I say the wrong thing or in the wrong voice and she gets annoyed with me and I get annoyed with her, then I stop and think, okay, well, she's 4. Why am I getting annoyed that, why, even why, what, that's just deal with it and just like do the stupid voice that she wants to do, make her happy. And that's great.
Hmm.
So it's this weird kind of like trickle down effect of just being stressed out from life and from work and from COVID and from everything, like but not COVID personally, but like the, global situation. But then it's like the simplest little thing of like getting annoyed at a dog and then realizing, well, I'm overreacting to that. And then, oh, I'm overreacting to all these other things. Oh, I should just chill out and enjoy it. Oh, wow, I'm really enjoying this.
Hmm.
And then it makes you realize how much fulfillment there is in all those things besides music.
Hmm. Exactly.
That was a long road to get to that answer.
That's okay, man. Totally okay. And yeah, and thanks for sharing the thing about your mental health, that's not easy to say. So yeah, thanks for that, man. Really, yeah,
Yeah,
appreciate you sharing
no, for
that
sure.
stuff. Because yeah, it's important to get out because this it's not only happening or it's happening to a lot of people. I think who feel that way. And I mean, I think not just speaking for myself, but people in the music industry, no matter what you really do in it, there's so much focus and attention on what the public thinks of you, right? So I think it's easy to base your emotions over on how many likes you have or how many fans you have, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm really glad you found your fulfillment. That's really positive stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and like you're saying about, people worrying too much about what others think. I feel like that's going back to when we're talking about the goal setting. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's why a lot of the goals that people set are in some way based upon what others think.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, so like, and I'm not trying to put you under the microscope at the moment, but like even how you said like you wanted your goal to be like a certain number of subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like that's still something that is based on what others think of you
Right.
or what
Exactly.
which you as a human are very likely to take it as what they think of you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I know I feel that way. So I think that's what going back even further to the one thing and that my 411 like kind of a yearly, monthly, weekly goal setting thing. That's why they have right side by side. They have like career and personal. So I think it's something where it's totally fine to have the subscriber number as a career goal, or for me the certain number of project quote requests whatever per day. That's under the career side, but it's also making sure that the personal side is separate. It's on the same page, but like it is like you're reminded every day that you look at this that that is career, not personal.
Mm-hmm.
That your personal things are as important. I mean, they're more important, but sometimes it takes a lot for a creative to remember that it's not it's not less important than the career that they're focusing on.
Mm.
So that's something that I think has been really really helpful. Just for me, like it got me into just remembering to take my vitamins. You know what I mean? Like something as simple as that, or like drinking enough water instead of just pouring gallons of coffee down my throat every day. It's like, okay, I have, it's going to sound super dumb, but like I have phone reminders to remind me to take my vitamin, remind me to drink water
Mm-hmm.
because I need that. I'm the type that gets so caught up in mixing or whatever I'm working on that I totally, forget to do it entirely, or I'll remember and I'll just be like, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and disregard it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to set alarms and annoy myself to like keep me on track. But in doing so, now it's become more second nature. Like I've been using that to help develop the habit.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, I had the same exact problem. What helped me was actually to just get a bottle that I need to drink two of these bottles a day, and that actually helped me with the water problem too.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a funny, not funny, but I think it's very common. It doesn't matter if it's music or not, but if you're a person who gets really into your work that you forget to eat and drink and whatever, I think it's very common.
Yeah.
It definitely is.
Yeah. So it's been super helpful. I can send you a link
Hmm.
to that after the call. And then that way, I don't know if you put it in like show notes or
Yeah, yeah,
anything. If you
yeah,
want to
yeah.
send links to that, it's super helpful. They have a podcast for the one thing.
Oh, cool.
And there's a particular episode about that sheet, but that my 411 sheet, explaining it and like kind of walking you through it. So it was like I think it was recorded like at a conference or something. It might have been
Right,
last year.
right.
Um, so it's like probably like a 25-minute, 30-minute episode, kind of
Cool.
going over that. But it's super helpful, and it's yeah, definitely. I would highly recommend it to anybody that's like you and I, always struggling to like knowing you want to set goals and having goals that you want, but never really knowing what goals are realistic, what goals are important, or
Hmm.
how the hell are we going to get there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, man. Yeah, and please send that episode too, and I'll leave everything below, obviously, for people to click and check out. Uh, but Carl, it's been a huge pleasure, man. I didn't know we were going to go where we went, but we went there.
I didn't either. We didn't say anything about mixing.
No. Well, I usually don't really talk about mixing or anything gear or stuff like that related. I feel that this in itself will hopefully make your mixes better. Whoever's listening is mixing.
Well, just hopefully it makes your head clearer,
Exactly.
and that's going to lead to better mixes, more emotionally impactful songs, cooler
Mm.
plugins, like whatever whatever you do.
Exactly, man. But actually, before we wrap up and stuff, maybe can you let the listeners know where they can find more stuff about you and hire you for music projects and all that?
Sure, you can go to my website, carlbahner.com, which I could spell it out now, or you can just look at your screen because it's going to be spelled out there. Instagram at Carl Bahner. Um, yeah, I
I'll
mean, those
leave
are the
links
two.
to
I
that
mean,
too, all below. So
awesome. Yeah, so that's really where the main place is at, kind of like live on Instagram. But yeah, if you want to reach out to me, it's carlbahner at gmail.com. Yeah, I'd love to talk about anything, whether it's, for a project, or even if it's just, talking more about the goal setting and the stuff that we talked about in the episode.
hmm.
Always happy to connect with people and hopefully help if I can.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, thanks again, Carl. It was a real pleasure. I felt like I learned a lot. So yeah, thank you.
Me too. I learned more about myself than I talked.
That's good. That's the goal, man. But yeah, also thank you for taking your time. I know it's Christmas and you have a dog and a daughter, so thank you for doing that. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. This has been fantastic. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Carl, for coming on to the show. Real pleasure having you on, and hope you, the listener, enjoyed our conversation as well. Again, check out Carl's website. Check out the book he recommended, the podcast episode he recommended too. And also, before you leave, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you are listening to the show. And also, check out the Audio Tribe email list. There's a link to that in the description below. Just blah. Just enter your name and email address, and you have joined. And if you join, you get exclusive access to interviews before the public, chance to ask up and coming guest questions, and a lot more fun stuff we can do in the future as it grows and grows. But that's it for this week. Real pleasure having you here. 2021 just started. Hopefully, it's going to be a much better year than last year. But that's it for this week. Take care, and I'll see you next week again.